יודע שכל הכיסופים, כל הגעגועים, כל הזיכרונות, כל הניצחונות מובילים לירושלים. נצח ירושלים תמיד לנגד עינינו, אתמול, היום, מחר. נשמור בעזרת השם על ירושלים בריבונות ישראל לעולמי עד. חג שמח לירושלים. אויבינו שואפים להכחיד את כולנו. כולנו. הם לא עושים שום הבחנה. שום הבחנה. בין ימין לשמאל, בין חילונים לדתיים, לחרדים, בין יהודים לערבים, תושבי ישראל ואזרחי ישראל. אויבינו שואפים להכחיד את כולנו, בלי יוצא מן הכלל. אבל יש להם מטרה נוספת, לעקור אותנו מירושלים.
What does he want from the U.S.?
A lot of things. We talked about a lot of things. Too many things to discuss, but a lot of things. We had a very good meeting, but we want things from them. One thing he agreed to today is going to order 200 jets. That's a big thing, Boeing's.
Boeing.
200 big ones. That's a lot of jobs. It's a lot. Boeing wanted 150. He got 200. He said, I think it was a commitment. I mean, sort of like a statement, but I think it was a commitment. She would like to see a deal made. He would like to see a deal made. And he did offer, he said, if I can be of any help at all, I would like to be of help. Because,
he did say that.
Yeah, he did say that. And look, anybody that buys that much oil has obviously got some kind of a relationship with him. But he said, I would love to be of help. If I can be of any help whatsoever, he'd like to see the Hormuz Strait open. He said, if I could be of any help whatsoever, I would
really understood is, okay, Trump's position on Russia, fine. But your Republican Party has always been more than clear about its position against Russia. How can it be that, like, such a large part of congressional politicians, Senate members, members of the House, fell for Trump's position?
Well, I don't think they agree with it. I think they're just intimidated. They're unwilling to speak out against it. I think the party fundamentally remains a Reaganite or Reagan-Bush party on foreign policy. And I think when Trump leaves office, that will be clear. I think there's going to be a fight for the soul of the party, but I think the Reagan wing, as I said, this is a matter of personal relations. And Trump believes that Ukraine worked against him in the 2016 campaign, and that Hillary Clinton's computer server, is somewhere in Ukraine, and he wants it. And he's serious. He wants that server, which would prove it. Zelensky hasn't produced the server. It resulted in cutoff of U.S. security assistance in 2018 for a time. That's how Trump sees things. His analysis of Ukraine is not what's in America's national security interest. It's about that problem. And Putin has played on that.
No doubt that the necessity of fighting this war has caused the Ukrainians to develop new tactics, new techniques, new equipment, new technology that is creating a sort of hybrid asymmetrical warfare. That's impressive, no doubt about it. I mean, if you look at the Russians are losing 5 times as many soldiers a month as the Ukrainians are. And the Ukraine is a smaller country and a smaller army for that matter. Although the Ukrainian armed forces are the strongest, most powerful armed forces in all of Europe, just to be clear, right now. Obviously because a lot of the assistance they've gotten, but also because of the battlefield experience.
And
so you think it was working?
Well, not only did I think it was working, even Israeli intelligence thought it was working. Even our intelligence services thought it was working. So there's no dispute that it worked, and we didn't have to kill a whole bunch of people or shut down the Strait of Hormuz. Now,
well, there was some dispute that it didn't work.
Well,
our present president believed that it didn't work, which is why he pulled out of it.
It's not clear that he didn't believe that it didn't work. He just said it didn't work.
Worst deal of all time.
Yeah, because I did it, which is fine. That seems to be a pattern. But there was no serious independent folks who would say that it didn't work with respect to the nuclear program. Now,
Welcome back to the SCIF. We are still on scene in Honolulu, Hawaii at the Land Back Symposium and Exhibition, reporting for the Department of War on all the militaries of the Pacific, all our allies, Japan, Singapore, New Zealand, etc., who are all here working on interoperability and the ability to deter aggression in the region. Of course, we're talking about the near peer or peer competitor militarily, China. We've got a big show for you today. I've got Euro Bytes. Angela Merkel is back. Did you know that? Why is she coming back? What does that mean? And what does she need to do? All of that is very interesting as you look at the matrix being developed in Europe. And we've got elections coming, and there's so much fraud and so much dark money coming in Georgia and in Florida that you need to know about it. So we've got Chris Gleason and Bill Quinn that are going to talk about that. And then I've got Sean Patrick Terrio to talk again about privacy, because it's something you really need to know about and start your journey on that. So I want to say hello to those in the chat. You're clear and hot. And check out whatfinger.com, great aggregator site for us. Let's do the mission brief. Today is, I guess this will be pre-taped for Friday, and it will be the 15th. I'm your host, Todd Wood. Here's your mission brief. Big wins for Trump in China. I want to list those for you here soon as we get into the stories. Warsaw, same-sex marriages. I've been on this story for 3 years, and it's not getting any better in Central Europe. Hungary and Poland are being turned into something different, and Christianity, again, is under attack in that region. Water sabotage in Alabama. This one is important. We've been talking about this on Sabotage SITREP on armedforces.press, our military channel, for some time now, but it's continuing. We've got all these agents in our country, and things are not looking good. Dan Bacon, Representative Bacon of Nebraska, serves another master in Ukraine. I want to inform you on that story. And Russia launches a massive drone attack on Kyiv, and Putin says the war is almost over. Is it? We'll see. Stay with us. We'll be right back after this break.
Every day, your data is being tracked, collected, and sold, often without you even realizing it. Big tech companies control your devices, your apps, and the information you share. From your messages to your browsing habits, everything is being monitored and stored. Over time, we've traded privacy for convenience, and most people don't even question it. But what if you could take that control back? That's where Mark 37 comes in. Mark 37 provides privacy-focused phones, laptops, and tablets designed to give you full control over your digital life. With secure systems, expert support, and simple tools, they make it easier to step away from constant tracking and data collection. Because privacy isn't just a feature, it's a fundamental choice. It's about protecting your data, your freedom, and your future. Take back control of your digital life with Mark 37.
The pandemic, we can never be caught unprepared again. And so many Americans, when COVID hit, they had nothing in the house. Stores were shut down, and doctors' offices were shut down, and even if doctors prescribed drugs, hydroxychloroquine, ivermectin, pharmacists wouldn't fill the prescriptions. That was a nightmare.
Now the situation is much worse. We have these horrible supply chain problems. In our emergency medical kit at the Wellness Company, we have 8 prescription drugs that are all potentially life-saving.
Most people who died with COVID, they died in the hospital because they didn't receive early treatment.
Every American family should have one of these.
I can tell you the Wellness Company kit is the answer.
With my 35 years of experience, our team at U.S. Asset Management can deliver professional investment management, financial planning to help you target your goals, and even specialized divorce financial analysis if you need it. We are here to help you make better decisions with your money. Call U.S. Asset Management today, and let's get to work in your financial future.
Welcome back to the SCIF. I should have said earlier that this show is being pre-taped and it will be playing Friday morning, the 15th. So if it looks a little disjointed, it's because it is. We're putting together a bunch of different pieces for this show. We're going to go into Euro Bytes segment with our Euro Bytes team to talk about Angela Merkel and Starmer's last days, we think. So that should be interesting. I think you'll enjoy that. Later in the show, we've got 2 interviews on money coming into politics locally in Florida and Georgia. Bill Quinn and Chris Gleason will be dishing some truth on some stuff you need to know about, especially if you're from those states. But the corruption continues, and I want you to be aware of it. And then I've got Sean Patrick Tario later in the show to talk about privacy. Don't miss that one. He is the guy. He is the man. You know, Pete Blaber is the man when it comes to counterterrorism. Sean Patrick Tario is the man when it comes to privacy. By the way, I wanted to say I'm starting my journey with Sean. I'm going to be getting a Ghost phone and then upgrading to a Ghost computer soon, because I am going to unplug for the Matrix. And you can follow me along on my journey. So mark37.com/CDM is where you want to go to do that. Find the webinar, sign up for the webinar, and learn everything you need to know to get started. And then you can also sign up for a free 30-minute consultation on privacy there at mark37.com/CDM. But I'm looking forward to it, and I have been worried about privacy for some time. So I'm going to be taking the plunge and changing my life and unplugging from the Matrix, and I'm really looking forward to it. So maybe you can join me. Let's talk about some stories, please. First, Trump hails fantastic day with Xi Jinping, announces major Boeing deal, 300 jets, as China pledges to open the Strait of Hormuz along with the United States and prevent Iran from charging tolls. This is what Trump wanted. The question is, what did he provide? What did he give for that? I mean, obviously there's a quid pro quo going on in Beijing, likely something to do with Taiwan, likely a deal made there, likely a deal with tariffs, possibly some goodies for the Chinese. We don't know, but I think the details will come out over time. But obviously, we don't want a war with China. I think China and Xi Jinping sense that and understand that and are trying to avoid it and are trying to get the world economy back on track, because the strait being closed is bad for China, it's bad for Europe, and it's bad for the U.S. because our gas prices are going up, although we have a lot of fuel, plenty for the state or for the nation to continue it to operate. So that's an important story. You can find that on cdm.press. This next one is disturbing. Georgia, actually in Alabama, Mobile, Alabama, it's on the Georgia Record. They found an improvised explosive device underwater at an Alabama dam, which threatened the water supply. It did not explode, but somebody took the time to put a grenade-like device together and plant it under the water at this dam. So this is bizarre. Obviously, there's a lot of illegal aliens, a lot of saboteurs in the United States. We've had the bridge in Maryland. We've had East Palestine in Ohio. We've had train derailments. We've had food factories blow up all across the country, as far as multiple fires at oil refineries and oil production facilities recently as well across the United States. So sabotage is something that is happening, and we're going to look for somebody to do a sabotage sit rep on armedforces.press and have another episode of that to discuss this whole thing once we find out more about it. But this is disturbing. Go to thegeorgiarecord.com to find information on the story. If you go to our Eastern European site, arzen.com, I was in Warsaw in December of 2023. Some of you may remember. I stood in the square in Old Warsaw and I said, this place is about to change. This is the end of Poland as we know it, of Christian Poland. And guess what? They are bringing in the migrants. They brought in a new government with Tusk, and now they're bringing in the gay marriage. So the old Christian Poland is slipping away. Hopefully you got to enjoy it. Central Europe is dying, and along with the rest of Europe, which is way far ahead of it in their intentional suicide of culture and security and energy policy, manufacturing, go down the list. Essentially the extinction of white Christian civilization in Europe. Not good for anybody, not good for anyone. Not good if you're Jewish, not good if you're Muslim, to have that society go away, because it's just going to be the law of the jungle going forward, which is probably why they want to get rid of Christianity, so they can have might makes right and get rid of those Christian principles, those annoying Christian principles that we talk about all the time. So let's look at Dan Bacon, Representative Dan Bacon from Nebraska, who just led one other Republican and a bunch of Democrats to try to pass a $1.2 billion aid package for Ukraine against Mike Johnson's wishes. How this happened, I'm not a student of the arcane House rules, but it's disturbing and I don't like it. And we're going to talk with Pete Blaber next week about Mr. Bacon and all of the nefarious activity he's been involved in. He just also voted to keep the 300,000 Haitian refugees in the country for another 18 months. Not cool at all. He's working for somebody else, like Zelensky, like Biden, like all of them. And then finally, Russia launched a massive drone attack on Ukrainian western border crossings along into Poland, et cetera. It looks like Putin is looking to expand the war and prevent more equipment coming in through the borders into Ukraine from Central Europe. And also the U.S. stopped 4,000 troops from being deployed to Poland. The stated reason was that they're needed in the Gulf, but I think it's a double whammy that also hopefully Trump is trying to pull troops out of that region so we don't get into war with Russia. All right. So next we got Euro Bytes to talk about Angela Merkel and Starmer, and then 2 videos of Chris Gleason and Bill Quinn, and then Son Patrick Tario. I'm not going to introduce all those. I'm just going to let this run. We'll be back in the studio, as we said, Monday. So really hope you enjoy this. We'll take a break. We'll be right back. Stay with us.
I'm a naturopathic doctor. We are in the world of medicine very acquainted with many modalities, but probably the one most familiar with everybody would be 2 things: homeopathy and herbs, maybe some nutrients too, vitamins, minerals, that kind of thing. Now, we do know a lot about the drugs because we have to find out what drug you're taking affects you and what nutrient it depletes you of, because most every drug pharmacy product will deplete something. So we have been trained and we have a database that we can check into that says this is going to take your B12 away. The pharmaceutical company cannot patent organic substances made by the body. You're not born short of Advil. You're not born short of Ritalin. Yeah. You can be born short of insulin, right? Mm-hmm. The answers to staying healthy and keeping away from even SARS or any of those things getting into you is staying healthy. Mm-hmm. You and I get sick because our terrain gets out of balance. Well, that's the same thing in the soil. You and I are made from this thing called dirt. And when we get out of balance, we have the same thing happen. Weeds start to grow in our body. Right? And that's what we want in our body. We want nutrients that we don't understand how to get well enough yet because our suppliers are lacking knowledge on nutrient density foods.
So this is what drove you to develop this, was your knowledge of this, right?
Right. Mm-hmm. You know that.
I'm excited to announce that we're having a huge sale on overstock and brand new products. For example, My Pillow Percale bed sheets, every color, every style, every size, only $29.88. Our Percale bed sheets are breathable, cool and crisp, and they're perfect for spring and summer. And check out Rev 7, the next generation of energy drinks. It tastes great, and it gives you energy all day with no jitters and no crashes. Best of all, it's actually good for you. And for a limited time, try our 3-pack absolutely free. So go to mypillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to save 20% on our Rev 7 12-packs, or try our introductory 3-pack absolutely free. And our Percale bed sheets, all sizes, only $29.88. Twin size, full size, queen size, king sizes, all $29.88. Inventory is extremely limited at this price, so order now.
Welcome back to Euro Bytes. I am not in the studio, obviously, on location at the LANPAC conference for the Department of War as a Pentagon correspondent, but I had a chance to get in touch with Christian, our Euro Bytes, I would say, chief, and tell us what's going on in Europe, Christian. I'm really curious about Mr. Starmer. He said this morning he was a gooner or something. What the hell does that mean?
Oh God, I mean, it's sometimes hard to tell with Keir Starmer what he actually means. I mean, his favorite gaffe, I think 2 years ago when he spoke about the hostages in Gaza, and he spoke to them, he referred to them as sausages. So, you know, I'm not quite sure what he meant with goon. But I mean, the current situation with Keir Starmer, and so he's one of my favorite politicians in the sense it's so comical. It's I mean, when he's gone, I'll truly be sad because it's just comedy gold. And to give you an example, I mean, a very talented UK comedian, one of the few guys on the right that we have. Actually, there's a number of them, but a guy who reached a certain prominence called Nick Dixon, he kind of quipped the other day, look, after the nuclear fallout, it's just going to be a bunch of cockroaches and Keir Starmer. And Keir Starmer will say amongst the cockroaches, I will not resign. I will not resign. And I mean, that I have rarely seen somebody like Keir Starmer, you know, otherwise a very uncharismatic politician, a very bland rhetorician. But there is one thing he has, it's staying power. I mean, interesting enough, this was the government of, first of all, the many U-turns. He tried to slap massive inheritance taxes on the British farmers, meaning every time you pass on the farm to your son, you will need to sell part of the farm because, you know, the inheritance taxes were so high. Fortunately, he U-turned on that after there was a big grassroots uprising against it, and the farmers' union very skillfully dragged in Jeremy Clarkson. You guys might remember Jeremy Clarkson as the very talented car guy from Top Gear, and he's bought a farm. He has got a fantastic series. I recommend it to every conservative, called Clarkson's Farm, and he shines a light on the tough life of the farmers. And he and the British Farmers Union ran a very talented campaign, and they got Keir Starmer to U-turn. But he U-turned on a couple of other issues, be that removing a fuel allowance for the senior citizens, and a lot more. So it is a very unpopular government, very unpopular with the far left of Labour, because when Keir Starmer came into power, he removed Jeremy Corbyn, who was an orthodox leftist, if not an outright Marxist. The far left hates him. What is left of a more conservative kind of blue dog Democrat, Labour, doesn't like him either. Interesting enough, he has lost the working class at the very latest since lecturing one of the towns where there was a bit of a riot after the killing of 3 young girls at the hand of a migrant. And he then talked down to the far right and all these thugs and brought down the hammer of the law, and bringing down the hammer of the law on a bunch of angry working class people that in their neighborhood in their community had 3 girls slain, whilst thousands of people who were involved in the grooming gang scandal, i.e. the decade-long industrial-sized rape of British girls, where the British state did nothing, where Keir Starmer voted against a more in-depth investigation. But that Prime Minister brought down the hammer on them. But now he's clinging on to dear life. And actually, the whole thing, as so many things right now in world politics, is related to the Epstein scandal. Remember, we've mentioned that on Euro Bytes before. One of the dark horses of British politics is a guy called Peter Mandelson. Now, what you need to know about Peter Mandelson, he used to be called the Dark Lord. You always thought Tony Blair was the Dark Lord. He too is a Dark Lord, but the Dark Lord's Dark Lord is Peter Mandelson. Peter Mandelson had been fired twice by Tony Blair for various scandals, typically involving financial irregularities. He had been then fired by Tony Blair's successor, Gordon Brown. Now,
I watched John Wick last night, and the take was, he's not the boogeyman, he's the man you want to kill the boogeyman. So this is Mandelson, right?
Yes, that indeed is Peter Mandelson. Now, Peter Mandelson, it turned out a while ago, rumors surfaced that Keir Starmer has made him ambassador to the United States, i.e., the same guy who was fired by three times by two different prime ministers before Keir Starmer. Keir Starmer made him ambassador to the United States. It turned out that he made him ambassador to the United States when all the allegations about Mandelson's inappropriate relationships to Epstein were already known, and that and people already went for Keir Starmer's head. Then he survived that, as so many challenges to his leadership. Now, about 4 or 5 weeks ago, it turned out that Keir Starmer had not just heard, oh, yes, I heard there were these relations to that guy who was a known pedophile or pederast, Epstein, but I didn't fully appreciate. Now it turned out actually a lot of the UK's security agencies, MI6, GCHQ, and so warned Keir Starmer, do not do the vetting of Mandelson. The whole thing with the relationship with this Jeffrey Epstein guy is very inappropriate. It seems to go much deeper. Do not vet him. Nonetheless, Keir Starmer decided to go ahead with that.
It's almost like he's working for somebody else, like
yes.
Zelensky, and go down the list.
It is really interesting. I mean, in terms of, look, there is a guy who had been fired 3 times. Your security services warn you, do not, for your own political sake, do not use that man. There is a lot of tight relationships with Jeffrey Epstein. It turned out that that Mandelson was in close coordination with Epstein, and, for instance, called him at the time when Gordon Brown did one of the worst deals in the history of financial markets, when he sold the Brown bottom, meaning he sold I think, was it a couple of hundred metric tons of UK gold at the absolute bottom of the market. So if you bought gold then at that price, you'd been on a good ride. Turns out when Mandelson learned about the sell of this gold price, first thing he did, he called Epstein. But nonetheless, you're correct. You're kind of wondering, a guy who was fired 3 times, but nonetheless rehired by 3 different prime ministers, and having these known Epstein connections, somehow they find it appropriate to hand arguably the most important ambassadorship that the UK has to offer to that man. And yes, indeed, it makes you wonder, what has he got over them, or what has he got connections to for them to do that? And Todd, you kind of hinted at something, who is really their boss? It turned out, and one of the things that makes Keir Starmer almost, likably autistic or unlikably autistic is he was recently asked, a year or 2 ago, well, if you had to pick between the UK and Davos, what would you pick? And he said Davos, i.e. Davos being a stand-in for the WEF. Now I've talked about why Keir Starmer actually should have stepped down twice. Twice people seem to know about him having made Mandelson ambassador to the United States. And first he said he only had a vague idea. Yeah, I shouldn't have done that. Then actually turns out he knew quite a bit through his spin doctor, a guy called Morgan McSweeney, under the bus. He survived that. But now, this past week, there have been various elections in the United Kingdom. The parliamentary elections for the regional parliament in Scotland, the regional parliament in Wales, and the local councils in England. And the result of these elections were an absolute annihilation of Labour, a further diminishment of the so-called Conservative Tories, and a triumph of Reform UK, Nigel Farage's party. Interesting enough, also a triumph of the guy who was ignominiously bullied out of Nigel Farage's party and slandered and everything, Rupert Lowe. Rupert Lowe, by the way, is the favorite by Elon Musk. Elon Musk had a conversation with Nigel Farage, said, no, that's not the guy to bring about change, but he very much liked the looks of Rupert Lowe. And Rupert Lowe's party only launched in 1 district, and they won 10 out of 10 seats that were available there. I mean, we're taking 100%. So this is really, really good in terms of showing the strategy. He had a party called Great Yarmouth, which is also the parliamentary district where Rupert Lowe is from. And he founded the party Great Yarmouth First, which is an offshoot of his party called Restore. And I think it shows to a lot of conservative movements in the United States and Europe how you do it. You go local first, you build up a fantastic grassroots movement, you prioritize local issues over national issues. Nonetheless, you have ties to a good national movement. Now, tying it back to our great Prime Minister Keir Starmer, not only all the scandals that he survived around Epstein, now he obviously had done something that is more unforgivable in politics than having proximity to known pedophiles, which is losing elections badly. and he had a couple of parliamentarians coming out of the woodworks, a couple of ministers resigning, but he stays on his chair. And suddenly starts talking about bringing back digital ID, which was something that he had U-turned on before. So,
funny. The real agenda comes out.
The real agenda comes
out. Lose. Yeah.
Absolutely. And interesting enough, I guess, Todd, you mentioned Angela Merkel rearing her ugly face in the background. You mentioned Ukraine. The segue from Keir Starmer to Angela Merkel. Keir Starmer, the only thing I ever agreed with Keir Starmer on was not participating in the military adventurism in Iran. He said, no, this is not the UK's fight. So far, so good. You could say, okay, that's good. Anti-war, UK first. We've got enough stuff to actually clean up at home, rebuild the military, rather than getting into military adventurisms against Iran. But no, when he said Iran is not our war, it means Ukraine is our war. And I think within Europe, the United Kingdom, even ahead of Germany, is the biggest contributor towards the budget of Ukraine and towards the military budget of Ukraine.
It's an MI6 project, obviously.
Yes. And I mean, it does make you wonder. Now, from there, segueing to Ukraine's or to Russia's one of the biggest antagonists of Russia in Europe, Angela Merkel, our former chancellor, who reared her ugly head again in the background, because right now her party, the CDU, is not doing well. It has done poorly in a number of elections. The AfD now is officially the strongest party, something that nobody thought possible just a year ago. And Angela Merkel has reared her head. She has ruled out becoming chancellor again. I don't think anybody would vote for her other than a couple of hardcore people who still vote for Friedrich Merz. But she suddenly is brought in on board as the peace envoy, or at least floating her as the envoy to bring about peace in Ukraine. Now, what you need to know, what Angela Merkel has been doing for years, she kept antagonizing Russia, she kept villainizing Russia, at the same time with her energy policy, increasing the dependency on Russia, closing down nuclear power plants, talking net zero, at the same time calling Putin a dictator, likening Putin with Hitler, and so forth, at the same time increasing the dependency on Russia. So, and interesting enough, I think it was her who kind of admitted that all the peace process, all the peace talks that were meant to avert a couple of years ago, prior to the outbreak of the Ukraine war, I think the Minsk Accords or so, where Russia was assured, no, Ukraine wasn't going to be admitted into NATO, and no, there is no aggressive NATO strategy. She said, no, look, this was all to buy time for Ukraine. So, I mean, time and again, you wonder, why we keep floating bad faith actors in Russia's face. And at the same time, Germany, one of Merz's last actions was announcing a major drone partnership between Germany and Ukraine. And Ukraine is taking a leaf out of the US and Israeli playbook. If you can't defeat the enemy militarily, you just bomb civilian infrastructure and oil infrastructure, and that's what's happening. And having Angela Merkel back in the conversation is not.
Well, it's a way to not achieve peace. It's appointing a peace envoy that won't go for peace, right? I mean, so that seems to be the strategy. Where is this coming from? England or from Germany, or both, or above?
Well, I mean, whenever it comes to Germany, remember, I mean, I still maintain that Germany is not a sovereign country. I mean, as shown by the fact, well, that we had our most important pipeline blown up, most likely by an ally. And interesting enough, so a fully sovereign country, when your pipeline, your most important pipeline, the Nord Stream 2 pipeline with Russia. So if the rumors were true, that it was either the United States in cahoots with Norway and the UK that blew up the pipelines, a truly sovereign country would say, look, you attacked us, we're part of the same alliance with you, we're going to leave the alliance. Or the German media floated the story of, you know, who it was? It was a bunch of Ukrainians, with a sailing boat. And it was one of Ukraine's best deep divers, which, I mean, ask any Navy SEAL who says, look, it's still 60 meters deep, it's non-trivial, you need a mothership, you need quite a bit of infrastructure to pull that off. So a bunch of rogue Ukrainian divers with explosives wouldn't pull it off. But even if you believe the story, and the German security services and the German establishment pretends like they buy the story, then as a sovereign country, you would cut off the aid, saying, okay, well, look, you just admitted to us, it was a bunch of rogue people from your side, you must have known about it, hence we no longer support you. So I take Germany out of the equation of being an actual sovereign here. I mean, it brings me to the UK, and with the UK, you need to look historically, and the UK always, the UK establishment seemed to have always a hate-on for Russia, a genuine hate-on for Russia. I mean, one of the the United Kingdom, or Great Britain at the time, fought a war together with France and Turkey against Russia in 1850, was it 1853, 56, something along those lines, the Crimean War, where essentially Russia was about to take a bunch of areas in Europe that had been conquered by the Turks hundreds of years ago. The Russians even had planned to conquer the Bosporus, you know, that small choke point that Turkey nowadays controls via Istanbul. Russia wanted to take it, but the Brits stopped that. So for whatever reason, the UK political establishment is out for Russia, has been doing that forever and a day. I mean, it makes you wonder what the greater geostrategic play is here.
I tend to think it's much more darker. It has to do, I mean, it's obviously against Christianity in any form. We're reporting on this all over the world. I think that's a big part of it. Obviously, there's some desire for the minerals, for the natural resources, for control of the area, for the farmland. But at the end, they're killing a lot of birds with one war, if you will, in my opinion.
You have Europe's one resurgent Orthodox power. You've got another Christian country, and you've got arguably the world's most valuable farmland. I mean, much of the Middle East, including Lebanon, which you just visited, live off Ukrainian grain. And if you get your hands on that particular region, I mean, I guess. So, I mean, it's a very provocative question to ask these days. And you don't have to be Dan Bilzerian to kind of ask about a bunch of what is. I mean, to point out a couple of commonalities. A lot of the wars these days, with seemingly unrelated wars, be that the war in Nigeria against the Christians, be that the war in Armenia against the Christians, be that what's happening in Lebanon, be that even to a small degree what's happening in Gaza, it's the one constant is it seems to be hitting Christians first and foremost. By the way, I should point out that even the Azari campaign against Armenia, was it 1 year or was it 2 years ago?
2 years ago.
Seemed to have been greatly helped by Israeli drones and Israeli technology. So, I mean, again, I'm not
the Pashinyan, the prime minister of Armenia, over the last 2 days has come out and said, well, you know, those ancient lands of Karabakh with the Christian mountainous regions for 2,000 years, those were never really ours. They weren't Christian. We don't have any claim on that land. Let's just let it go. And he threw the war to Azeris. And so it's obvious he's in the clan with Zelensky, Biden, Mersch, Starmer, Macron, all of them that are just puppets for this globalist empire that's trying to take over the world, in my opinion.
Yeah, so I mean, it's definitely something is going on, and I mean, if you see whether by intent or by result, it is a perfect storm in the making in terms of now the chokehold on the global oil supply and the fertilizer shortage, which will play out terrible for large parts of the world every day that this blockade, whether it's the Iranian version or whether that's the US Navy version of it, every day that blockade goes on, the harvest situation in the rest of the world grows worse, and the importance of Ukrainian farmland massively increases. So, we're definitely seeing an interesting overlap interesting overlap and weird coincidences of seemingly unconnected wars. Yeah, that's for sure.
Totally. All right, Christian, I don't have a lot of time, and I know you don't, but I think that was a fantastic discussion. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Todd. Well, take care and speak to you soon, hopefully with all four of us then in the next episode.
Yeah, I hope so. Anything else you wanted to get out? I kind of cut you off there, but is that all you had?
Not at the moment. Let's be super laser focused in today's episode, and we'll revisit the fallout of the UK election and what's going on in Germany in the next episode. So,
thank you, sir. Take care.
Thank you. Take care. Bye-bye.
Every day, your data is being tracked, collected, and sold, often without you even realizing it. Big tech companies control your devices, your apps, and the information you share. From your messages to your browsing habits, everything is being monitored and stored. Over time, we've traded privacy for convenience, and most people don't even question it. But what if you could take that control back? That's where Mark 37 comes in. Mark 37 provides privacy-focused phones, laptops, and tablets designed to give you full control over your digital life. With secure systems, expert support, and simple tools, they make it easier to step away from constant tracking and data collection. Because privacy isn't just a feature, it's a fundamental choice. It's about protecting your data, your freedom, and your future. Take back control of your digital life with Mark 37.
A warm welcome here at the National Press Club. Welcome to the journalists, welcome to the Embraer team, and welcome to the other guests that we have here. We're going to announce, and as some of you guessed it right when they came in, the first E2 order by an American operator. And that operator is Avello. We believe this is really a strategic shift to unlock profitability for the customer. I'm very pleased that we have Andrew Levy here as the CEO of Avello, and I'm very pleased to give the stage to share a little bit more about what Avello is going to do with the E2 195. Thank you very much.
Couldn't be more excited to be here as part of this historic announcement. We have such a great cultural fit as companies, so we're very, very excited to be Embraer's newest customer. We launched our airline in April of 21, and our target is focusing on small secondary airports of large metro areas. We've carried over 8 million customers since we started on 63,000 flights. And we've done all these things with 1,200 of the greatest crew members I could ever imagine having, and many of them are here with me today. This is the right airplane for us. It's going to open up opportunities for us that no other aircraft can serve. The best thing about the airplane, of course, is you will not find a middle seat on this airplane. It doesn't exist. We won't have any to offer. It's going to be the best cabin in the United States, and we're so excited about that. This is going to elevate our experience to the highest level, and we think our customers are absolutely going to love the airplane.
Your government doesn't care about you. That's why you need a medical emergency kit. It contains life-saving medications like ivermectin, Z-Pak, and antibiotics. Stock them before they block them.
In the previous two shows, we have talked with you about
the flow of money from out-of-state PACs, often special interest style PACs, into various campaigns, often through what are called independent expenditures. In this manner, money flows into to support campaigns, but it doesn't actually go into the campaign, and it's not reported as part of the campaign directly. You have to go look for it specially. We've shown you how these things work, how independent expenditures can be found on ethics.ga.gov, and you simply look up a particular candidate and then look in the center of the summary, and you'll be able to find these independent expenditures. We wanted to give you an update because now more spending is coming to light from some of the PACs that we have already spotted. So in previous reporting, we have shown you how American Conservative Fund Action Georgia has been spending money, over $1 million, to defeat Charlize Byrd in her House seat. Charlize is one of the most conservative voters in the Georgia House. And they've spent $160,000 to support her opponent, Mark Fernandez. And in the previous reporting, we showed you the list of candidates that they appear to be spending money in order to support. Well, a reminder, they are backed up. Their money comes from Win for America. So these PACs are nested, if you will. In other words, one PAC is funding another PAC, and it makes it more difficult to find who's behind it. But when we dug down to Win for America, we found FBG Enterprises, FanDuel, and DK Crown. And as a reminder, this is Fanatics Betting and Gambling, FanDuel, and DraftKings, all gambling organizations. And they appear to be acting in unison through Win for America and through American Conservatives to support and push certain candidates. Here is the latest finding. American Conservative Fund Action Georgia has spent, according to the independent expenditures under Mike Dudgeon's campaign, $397,000, nearly $400,000, trying to get Mike Dudgeon elected to the Georgia Senate. You will recall that Mike Dudgeon is running for the seat that's being vacated by Greg Dolezal. Greg Dolezal is currently running for lieutenant governor. $400,000, and you can see there are actually other PACs that are also spending money, but that is the big number that we see so far in Mike Dudgeon's campaign. Mike Dudgeon, you will recall, has been associated with Jeff Duncan. He was his, I believe, chief of staff, was involved in his campaigns. And so the net here is DraftKings, Fanatics, FanDuel, and others appear to be quietly spending more than $400,000 to get Mike Dudgeon elected. Do we think that that is to help Georgia citizens? We're going to leave that up to you to decide. Prior to this broadcast, we did reach out to Mr. Dudgeon and asked if he would like to make comment about what we are now reporting. And he asked for 15 minutes to consider what comments he might like to make, and he would get back to me. And we have heard nothing more. So we will continue to keep the door open. If Mr. Dudgeon would like to make comments about this finding, he can reach out to to the Georgia Record or to CDM, and we will take those comments in. Thanks again, and we will continue to watch what's going on in Georgia's elections. Thanks for being with us.
We're back with our good friend of the show, Chris Gleason. I am on location at a Department of War event. But Chris, good to have you back, my friend.
Good to be back, Todd.
I wanted to get you on because you've been dropping some bombs. Twitter is like on fire. I see these like secondary explosions going on. I mean, what is going on with the CCP money, my friend?
So there's a lot of it that's being criminally laundered into political campaigns, and apparently it's a full-on Chinese influence operation. They've been funneling money to the Democrats. They've been funneling money to the Republicans. Ashley Moody, my now opponent for the U.S. Senate, she has taken quite a bit of the CCP money. Then you have the two quote unquote lead candidates in Florida for governor. They have received CCP money. Rick Scott has received CCP money. We've got Laurel Lee, who has received CCP money. Gus Bilirakis, who has received CCP money. These are deeply troubling issues because this company, iGas, it's a de facto under control Chinese communist company. I mean, not my ruling, and far above my pay grade. This ruling has been made by 4 U.S. Commerce departments and heavily litigated. And once I filed an FEC complaint against iGas. I filed an OFAC complaint against iGas. I filed criminal complaints at the federal and state level over this. We kept investigating it, and we find that iGas took PPP money. They changed the name of one of the principals to another guy who isn't really the owner, and then they applied for PPP money, but they're really a Chinese-controlled company, and so it's things are a little interesting. And the funny thing about this is, even after they've been put on notice by the FEC and myself, and I'm pretty loud about this, they've doubled down, and they're making more donations. They made more donations to Gus Bilirakis, and apparently they made donations to a PAC that is running in opposition to the guy in Kentucky who is persona non grata in the GOP these days.
Yeah, interesting. So what have you had any feedback? I mean, any response? Any like, ooh, we need to look into that, or any from anyone?
I haven't. And so we went, we talked about this earlier. I went and I did an interview with the Florida Department of Law Enforcement, and they have not only been inactive, it appears that they may have even have been destroying evidence. And the day after that meeting that we had with FDLE, mysteriously that tracker that you guys reported on went dark. And the very next day,
tracker from illegal ballots in Pinellas that ended up in Fulton County, Georgia.
Yes, that is correct. And so, people, they want to be the devil's advocate, and they say, well, Chris, maybe the battery died. I said, well, that's a great idea. Maybe it did. I go, but the problem is that I have a control device out of the same package, and it's sitting on my desk, and it has full battery. So I guess that one doesn't quite work. So we've caught them a bunch of ways. Now, ultimately, this has to get flushed out in court. Hopefully, we have some judges that aren't materially connected to the case, like we had in Pinellas County and with the DCA. We had the District Court of Appeals judges, where most of the panel, their own vote by mail ballots were subject to this stuff. And yeah. So
what do you say to the people that say, well, I'm a candidate, I get thousands of contributions, I can't check every one. If 10 grand came in from iGas from a communist, I just didn't notice.
Well,
what do you?
Unfortunately for the Florida CCP money recipients, there was a story about this back, I think, in 2023, 2024, where they got notice that there was Chinese communist money being sent into their campaigns, and they didn't return it. They kept it, and some people like Ashley Moody, she doubled down and took more, a lot more, just like Gus Bilirakis. Wow. So,
what kind of numbers are we talking about for Ashley Moody? How much is she taking?
Probably close to a couple of 100,000 that we know about. I mean, that doesn't even count, the money that we know was smurfed in via the Win Red Smurfs. That doesn't count the money that she took from Leo Gavoni, who had pilfered $100 million from special needs trusts. I mean, you know, there's a lot of illicit money being poured into these campaigns. And, you know, I'm doing what I can. I'm one guy, right? And I'm filing FEC complaints. I'm filing complaints. You know, they're on notice. They haven't, the Treasury hasn't taken the money. And, you know, so I'm doing the best I can with what we got.
What do you mean the Treasury hasn't taken the money?
Well, I filed a petition with the Office of Foreign Asset Control, and I invoked two separate and distinct executive orders talking about election interference by foreign governments. And in that petition, we wanted to designate this company iGas as interfering in our elections. Arguably, taking CCP money is, you know, barred money from a de facto controlled Chinese communist company is a crime, and it's election interference. So, you know, the Treasury has yet to take any action on that, but we know that the Ballard Partners lobbyist that was connected to that, she's no longer the Attorney General of the United States. So we'll see who's the next one. Hopefully Todd Blanche does something. I'm waiting.
What is the next legal step? I mean, you filed all these complaints. What do you expect to happen, or what would normally happen in these cases for our audience sake?
We are in completely uncharted territory now with a lot of this stuff. The FEC has no quorum. We know we have a strategy on what we're going to do there, but you know, if the election corruption cartel investigates themselves and they find that there's nothing wrong, well, you know, we the people have to stand up and demand some action, right? And so that's kind of where, you know, that's kind of what we're formulating, wargaming, and dealing with. So.
Anything else you wanted to get out, Chris? I just wanted to talk about that, but what else is happening with you?
Well, let's see. We really need some help, us grassroots candidates down here in Florida, the ones who are not taking CCP money, the ones who are not taking Smurf money, the ones that are not taking AI data center money, the ones that are not, you know, 'cause apparently Byron's straight up, you know, he's for sale. And people are taking him up on it. So that's not what we're doing here. We've got some great grassroots candidates, and we need help, because here's the thing, right? The number one issue on the ballot this year is affordability, right? And so if the number one issue is affordability, well, where are all these? Gas is $5 a gallon. You know, people are hurting. They're not donating money, but to some people they are, and the people who we're seeing donating, they're all Smurfs. So you know, vote for Gleason.com and donate your time. Help us spread our message. Donate a couple bucks if you can. The legal limit is $3,500. You know, we need help, though. We definitely need help.
You mentioned Byron Donalds. Why do you think he's for sale? What do you call it that? What are you saying there?
Byron Donalds is for sale, and he's made that pretty public. He definitely is taking Smurf money, 100%. He definitely took the CCP money, 100%. He took it. And Jimmy Petronis recently was talking about how you needed to invest in the Byron Donalds campaign. They needed to invest in Byron Donalds. And so wait a minute, invest in the candidate. That sounds an awful lot like bribery. And you know, I guess what I'm doing wrong, right, is that I'm saying I'm not for sale. And because apparently people who want to give you money to your super PAC, right? They expect something in return.
Chris,
That's
thank you very much. I appreciate it, my friend. Talk
Okay.
soon.
All right.
Nuclear wasn't a product that was developed and to sell, really. What it really was a journey to get me well after my experience trying to immigrate and get married to an American citizen in order to get my green card. Towards the end, they send you for a medical, and that's where they sat me down and gave me 16 vaccines in one sitting. At the time, I knew when I was going through it that it's probably not good, but I didn't realize that I'm about to go through the worst health experience of my life. And that's when I went on this journey and understand that nutrition is actually your medicine. I've always heard the old people say your food's in your garden, but we didn't get it. And your body is always trying to heal itself. I mean, you know, when you cut yourself in a couple of days, it heals. And that is the process of homeostasis. Your body is always every cell in your body is always healing itself. And just like anything, if you bake a cake or you build a house, you need the right ingredients to achieve the result. Now, if you don't have the correct nutrition and you're not eating the correct food, it's like trying to build a house without bricks. Now, a lot of people, they say, what does nuclear do? Nuclear itself does nothing. It's not designed to do anything. Your body does the work. It gives your body all the things it needs balanced in, and it works together to deliver the correct nutritional supplement that you need as a human being to function normally.
It's finally here, our second annual mega sale. This sale only comes around once a year, so take advantage of the best offers ever while you can. For example, save 50% on our Giza Dream bed sheets, as low as $29.98. And for the first time ever on TV, My Pillow mattresses and My Pillow mattress toppers, as low as $99.98. And you save 50% on our Lux Pure 6-piece towel sets, regular $69.98. Now only $39.98. And our best-selling standard My Pillows, regular $49.98, on sale for $17.98. Wait on it, mega sale only $14.98. So go to mypillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use this promo code to take advantage of our second annual mega sale. But wait, there's more. To make the mega sale even more special, when you order right now, your order's going to ship absolutely free.
So I'm here at the LANPAC conference in Honolulu, Hawaii. It's a military conference of all the militaries in the Pacific working on interoperability and surveillance and how to, protect yourself from drones from the air and all the emissions and signals that you put out as a soldier or as a unit. And it really relates to our new sponsor, Mark37.com. Sean Patrick Terrio is with us. It's fascinating, Sean, how exposed you are and you don't even know it, even in the civilian world. Am I right?
Yeah, definitely. It's the basics of digital privacy 101 that nobody is taught, no one's covered. You're just told, like, let's just enter the digital domain and have no education or training or concept of why or how any of it works. And as a byproduct, everyone's exposed and no one knows it.
So tell us about your process, because it's a process to educate first and then provide solutions over time to that exact issue. I mean, that's why you founded the company, right?
Yeah, it's scratching my own itch. It's realizing that these devices have operating systems that are literally controlled by organizations and companies that are surveilling you all the time. Everything you say, everything you do, every action, every reaction. It's not just the Facebooks and the Instagrams and the TikToks. It's literally the physical device that you carry with you all the time. All of that data is being monitored and tracked, and people have in their head, they're like, well, the FBI, there's no FBI agent who's going to be tracking or monitoring me all the time. Or even those who are on the front lines are like, well, I'm glad that my FBI agent is tracking me because I get to preach the gospel to my FBI agent, and I'm going to, save his soul. And I'm like, no, you don't understand. All this data is going into a server somewhere, and then they're using algorithms to pick out key phrases, and then those get then sent to someone potentially to then determine, is this something actionable or not? But all of that data is being aggregated, has been for over 15 years into these servers all over the country, all over the world. And so that they can go back and look at your history, your data that literally is everything is minutia, as like, did you pause for a fraction of a second on a certain ad or a certain post that scrolled through, and they can say you're anti-Semitic or you're whatever because you paused and you actually read and or even shared something 5 years ago. So that's where like people don't fully understand all of this tracking that's occurring, not only inside the devices, but as you're learning and seeing at the conference, it's everything that's being pushed out. All the signals that are being pushed out. It's your home routers that people don't configure. They don't set up any privacy rules on whatsoever. They just kind of set it and forget it. So it's pervasive, and it's the equivalent of people walking into stores that are being robbed and not picking their head up just to say, hey, what's happening here? Should I even enter into this store? And the more you learn and the more you pick your head up and realize what's happening, the more you're like, holy smokes, everything is exposed all the time, and you should do something about it.
Well, there's a reason all these data centers are being created, right? People wonder, what do they need all these for? Well, it's decades and decades of that minutia that you're talking about, that they can track not just your behavior, but everyone around you. They link to everyone, know your family, your friends, everything, right?
Yeah, and people are freaking out about all the new data centers that are being built, which, I'm kind of on both sides of the spectrum, where I don't want any more data centers being built to help the existing surveillance apparatus operate and work. But the other side of me, having literally written a book about the data center industry, knows that these facilities themselves, in and of themselves, are not these evil monstrosities that people claim they are. If they're, it's all about intention. Right, Todd?
Yeah,
so if you're building these things with the intention of helping people, of serving people, then that's a different thing than using these facilities with the intention of building a surveillance technocratic state, right?
Well, so Sam Altman, who runs OpenAI, is not a real good guy, right? I mean, his intentions are not pure. He essentially opened a nonprofit and then said, oh, I'm going to make it profit and take all the money. So... And the internet is exactly what you're talking about, right? I mean, it was created to do something good, and now it's turned.
Well, the people, and that's actually a fun story that we could probably talk for hours on, but the people who originally worked in the internet were very altruistic. They wanted to share information. They wanted to disseminate information. A lot of those people ended up going to work at DEC Corporation, which was the competitor to IBM back in the day. And whereas DEC was very open and they were sharing information, the systems that they were building all spoke to each other. IBM was very monolithic and pyramid-led, where you had one centralized server and everything stemmed from there. Those people were kind of pushed out of the industry. And DEC went under because they joined corporate America and they had a publicly traded stock, and then they basically got manipulated out of existence. But the people who started building the internet ended up getting hired by the likes of the pornography companies early on, because they were the biggest companies online back in the day.
Had all the money.
That's where the money was.
Yeah.
And so they then moved on to go work at Google and Facebook and Yahoo and Microsoft and all these other companies because they knew how to scale infrastructure. They knew how to scale the servers, how to scale the networks, and they really just sold their soul for the dollars. So a lot of these people that started out with good intentions sold their soul for the dollar. And that's what has happened throughout this industry, for as long as I've been in the industry, which is since the late 1990s, just watching it all play out in front of me. And that's why I left, because I could no longer participate in the system, and why I started hunting for the solutions that can actually help us reclaim our sovereignty from the digital domain. And I realized a lot of geeks knew how to do this stuff. They could program the servers. They could use Linux on their laptops. They knew about Graphene OS and some of these other these operating systems for your mobile devices, but nobody else knew how to use these things. You had to be a geek in order to use these things. And I said, that's a problem. We need to solve for that. So all we do as a business is make these tools, laptops, tablets, phones, and we're coming out with all kinds of new cool stuff that are just accessible so that you can reclaim your data. But the key is, it's like owning a firearm. Just because you own the firearm doesn't mean you're safe. You have to actually learn how to use that firearm safely. So you have to get educated. So if you're saying, well, I'm not tech savvy and I don't want to learn anything new, then you're going to have to exist in the matrix. You're just going to have to stay in the matrix. But if you have a desire to leave the matrix and actually go live a sovereign life, you're going to have to learn some new things and change your behavior a little bit. Doesn't mean you have to give up your productivity. Doesn't mean you have to give up all the things that you're used to doing. You just have to think smarter and a little bit differently about how you do what you do, and the tools and the techniques that you use to do them.
And you gain a lot too, right? I mean, you gain protection, you gain privacy, you gain freedom from obtrusive ads, and even worse, I mean, where is your location? I mean, there's a lot of things that are taken from you, right?
Yeah. I mean, but it's like your health, Todd. Like, once you realize I want to be healthy, you have to make some targeted decisions that are probably going to be hard. They're not going to be like super simple, super easy to just start working out and changing your diet. You have to make some hard decisions. And for those who actually care about their privacy and care about their First Amendment rights, you have to start taking this stuff seriously. You can't just be like, rah, let's go freedom, let's go privacy, and then continue to literally operate in the matrix, giving away all of your information to the enemy. We have to literally stop and say to ourselves, I'm living in a environment that is digital poison all day, every day, poisoning myself, all the people around me, my family. I have to do something about this. And so we're here to help coach you step by step through the process. And it's different for everybody. What people like you, Todd, and what people like I need from a digital privacy security domain is different than what someone like my dad needs, who rarely uses tech at all anyway. So the tools that we need are a little bit different. So the training we need is going to be a little bit different. Just like our physical privacy. Some people need bodyguards to walk around with them all over the place. Some people don't need that. Some people need, bazookas, and they need special forces training. Most people don't need that. But we can get you that training. We can get you that education, but we want to meet you where you're at so that you can actually get the training, the skills, the tools that you need to live a more sovereign private life.
All right. So let's say I'm Joe Bag of Donuts. I'm listening to you. I'm like, rah, let's go. That you have a very simple way to get started. Tell us about that.
Yeah, I would go to mark37.com/CDM, which is, you just put it up. That's awesome. Go there. There's two things you can do from there. One, sign up for the webinar that's going to be on the 21st. So literally a week from today. We're going to walk you through, here's, some of the ways that you're getting spied on that you don't even know about. And then we're going to walk you through the tools. So we're going to show you live how these things work and how you can use these things, how to do the migration process. You can use your existing phone number if you want to. You can use your existing phone carrier if you want to. You don't have to change up everything. It's a journey. It's a process. But we'll show you live how these things work. And then the other thing you can do if you're like, okay, I don't want to wait for that, let's go. You can sign up for a digital privacy consultation. They're free. We do these all day, every day with our customers and with potential customers, and just ask us questions, read through the materials, ask us questions. But if you're like, I get it, let's go, you can go and order online all the different things that you might need.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Sean. Anything else?
No, I just want to thank you for the work that you're doing, and stay safe, brother.
Yeah, same to you, my friend. Take care. Thanks for joining us on the SCIF today. I want to make sure you follow us on our social media, CDM1 on Rumble, subscribe to us in CDM on YouTube. That's really important. And CDM_press. We're really trying to grow that on X. And you can find all the other papers all have their own social media accounts. By the way, we're about 3 million on CDM on Truth and about 5 million on CDM on armedforces.press. So you can check those out and subscribe there if you want to. As well, we put out a lot of content across a variety of social media accounts, so follow us somewhere that works for you. Thank you for everything. Please check out our no ad subscriptions, my.cdm.press. It's my.cdm.press. It gives you access to all of our accounts and all of our sites without any ads, no display ads or video ads popping up. So please check that out and support us that way if you could. It's really important to have revenue coming in every month that we can count on. So my.cdm.press. We will see you next time on the SCIF Monday at 10 a.m. We'll be back in the studio, and I'll be 2 p.m. Sunday on the Georgia Show with Bill Quinn back in the studio. See you then. Thanks for joining us today.